look who's back. Back again. Anita Sarkeesian is back. Tell a friend, maybe? It seems that the woman who was responsible for Tropes Versus Women in video games is once again trying to make herself relevant again. On her personal site now on consulting, she has this on her site, and apparently she has a mullet now. Saying, inclusive video game design support services. Looking to make your video game project more inclusive to a wider audience? You're not alone. Today's audiences crave authentic experiences that break free from old stereotypes and stories that better represent a wider range of characters. As the media landscape evolves, inclusive content gains critical acclaim and broader audiences. I can help you. Yeah, doesn't look like many people want to have her help. Or maybe they do, because she does have some list of clients on her site, including Devolver Digital, Double Fine, which that is of no surprise given how the CEO of that game decided to play defense for her. Landfall, which I've never heard of. Triband, another company I did not hear of before this. Mega Crit, whoever they are. And, well, Ubisoft, which has been a huge newsmaker in recent months for all the wrong reasons, I would no doubt say, and they have tried to use certain things as a shield to protect themselves and to distract from what they really are doing, which is to deprive people of money with overpriced slop in recent months. She goes on to say in the site, with over a decade of experience as a feminist media critic and the founder of a nonprofit dedicated to inclusive representations in video games and pop culture, I've consulted on numerous projects of all sizes, from AAA titles to smaller indie games. My team and I focus on representation issues such as gender, race, sexuality, ability, class, and more by examining art, scripts, and gameplay. We provide developers with a detailed report to equip them with as much information as possible to make informed choices about their games. Now, before I go any further, let me tell you that if you need a consulting firm to tell you what is or isn't diverse, then you've already lost the plot here. You weren't really serious about this project being diverse. You weren't really serious about any of that stuff. You're just trying to get a quick cash grab by doing the most minimalistic effort possible. Whether it be from this woman or from Sweet Baby Inc. or any of the people in between who have claimed that they know more than anybody else does about this topic. If you need someone else to tell you this, and especially someone who is trying to exploit these minority groups for profit only and would throw them by the wayside the second they are no longer profitable for them, then you have more problems than just development. Now, on to Anita as a whole. And this is the same woman who, when she was creating her Tropes Versus Women in video game series, she did not have a consistent schedule, and they came years apart from each other. And that was just the tip of the iceberg with the critiques and the controversy surrounding that series. For one thing, she had said that she was not a gamer, she had no interest in gaming, but seemed to have some profitability when it came to talking about certain topics in video games, which, let's first of all get this out of the way. No sane person is going to sit there and say that they don't want equal representation in gaming, either on screen or behind the scenes. No sane person is going to say that, and no, we're not going to bring up the people who use vitriolic messaging to address her. In this video, they didn't exist, because let's not give them the time of day, let's not give them the attention they seek. However, that doesn't take away from the criticism and the controversies that she had, because anybody who did their research about these games that she was covering would know that she was taking things completely out of context, lying about games. She was lying about the mechanics of such games, doing things that no person are actually playing the game and are actually serious about progressing the game would actually consider doing. The things that she was showing from Hitman Absolution was something that only she was doing. No one else was doing the things that she was doing in that footage. Assuming that she was doing it at all. Because one, she wasn't playing the games that she was covering, and two, there was a controversy that she was stealing gameplay footage and not giving people credit. Yes, I use some gameplay footage from other channels, but I do give the credit that they deserve, and I hope people do the same. I hope people are okay with me doing so. But not only that, I said about taking mechanics out of context and lying about stuff, such as there's no consequence for killing women or killing minorities or killing anybody in video games, when she's showing footage of a game giving you such consequence. She's talking over top of a game giving you consequence, telling you that there is no consequence for doing what the game footage is showing that they are doing, such as with Grand Theft Auto, which is the usual punching bag in these types of things. And you can go look at any video which is actually critical of her, and you can see that yes, there are lots of times where she gets the mechanics of the game wrong, where she gets the narrative of the game wrong. She takes things completely out of context. Watch Dogs was a victim of this. Hitman was a victim of this. GTA was a victim of this. Heck, the way that she talked about such games, you would think Shigeru Miyamoto barged into the studios and say, hey, change the game in order to fit my misogynistic ways, which there's no evidence that he had anything of the sort. It was to fit a narrative that any other person would be able to deliver with a little bit more fairness than she did, that she would open up discussion. But no, she did not do that. She suppressed discussion on the basis that she was getting death threats and vitriolic hate, which the majority of people were condemning, but they used it as a shield in order to make sure that any criticism at all was deemed inappropriate by proxy, by default, from people who would be on her side on a more fundamental aspect that yes, representation in games is important, both on screen and off screen. And keep in mind that games are a little bit different from movies, books, and TV shows that are more static in nature, because part of the experience, part of the story is the player that is actually playing the game, that's controlling the character. Yes, you can have a male main character, but a female may be holding controller behind the fourth wall. And thus, they are essentially one of the characters of the game, is the player. Is the person that's holding the controller, doing all the stuff that makes the character move or do the actions, pressing the buttons. And yes, some tropes might be overdone and maybe cliched, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're inherently sexist by default. But it wasn't necessarily her alone that was causing all the uproar. It was the establishment gaming media that was protecting her and was parroting what she was saying and would condemn anybody that even in the slightest bit, even the most civil of ways, any criticism of her. We know how protected she was. We know how many people Tim Schafer blocked because they dared to criticize her in any sort of way. She was the most protected person we've ever seen by the media. And that was frustrating because these are the very same people that used to condemn Joe Lieberman for the stuff that he was saying about games and violence, which there was no evidence to suggest that seeing violence in a video game correlated to violence in real life in any sort of way. But now all of a sudden, they were going around and they were saying that Anita was correct in her statement about video games cause sexism in real life. Well, if it does that, then what about the violence in video games? That's more or less the same thing. And now you're saying that if sexism in video games, assuming it exists at all, equates to sexism in real life, then you're essentially being hypocrites, and then you're making Joe Lieberman's case for him on the side. And aren't we allowed to criticize someone for their execution in delivering that message? The people who were criticizing her usage of certain examples were being labeled just as badly as those that were taking offense at her fundamental message, which no sane person would be against equal representation in games or in media. But if you need a firm, if you need I hate to say the acronym, but DEI firm, in order to tell you how to make diverse characters, then you weren't serious about it to begin with. Why do you need these people to tell you to be diverse? That should come naturally. That should be coming by default. You don't need a firm to tell you what to do with these characters. That should come from the heart. That should come from the soul. That should come from your creative vision. That shouldn't come from you paying money to Anita Sarkeesian or to Sweet Baby Inc. to tell you that, hey, you should change this or you change that in order to check a mark. Because if you're going to do that, then guess what will happen? They will then do the bare minimum. And we have seen it being done so many times. Ubisoft is doing it right now. WB was doing that with Suicide Squad. The race swapping, the gender swapping, the bare minimum. Instead of doing what they feel in their heart and mind and body and soul to create what is essentially their vision. If you need to do that, then it was never your vision to begin with. That should come organically. This is not organic. And you were never diverse to begin with if that was what you had to do in order to get your game to quote unquote sell. And people are seeing right through it. That's why you're seeing games like Dustborn fail. You're seeing games like Concord fail. It's not because they are against diversity. It's not because they hate women or people of color or LGBT plus people. Far from it. It's because they see right through the facade. They see right through the mask. They see right through this stuff. And saying you're not being honest. You are not being genuine here. And yes, the people on Twitter who are defending these firms are not defending the right thing here. They might as well own stock in these companies because they are essentially defending them tooth and nail to the death. No one is against DEI as a principle or as an idea, but as a product to companies that never really had those people at the forefront of their model, that they're just trying to get a quick cash grab and they would throw them away at the side the second that they were no longer quote-unquote profitable. It should be the standard. It should be default for somebody to think of these people as being equal to any other person and not to exploit them to make a quick buck, only to throw them away the second that it's no longer profitable to consider these issues. I mean, if we really were against what they're saying we're against, then why did you see just about everybody calling out Activision Blizzard after everything that happened there prior to the whole Microsoft thing going down? If that was the case, then we would be cheering on Blizzard as we heard about the cube crawls and stuff like that. But we were not. Why? Because we actually respect people. We actually respect women. We actually respect people of color and people with different backgrounds and different ideologies and different sexualities and everything in between. But if a company needs a firm to tell them that, then were they even serious about them to begin with? Think about that. And especially for someone who has been well known to not be serious about anything they're saying, about any of the topics they claim to have said. There are better feminists out there. I don't understand the need for these firms. I don't understand that. We do need better representation. We do need better diversity and inclusion. And yes, we have made progress, but we can be better at it. We always can be. But we don't need companies to hire these firms to tell them to check boxes, because that's all they're going to do. And they're just looking for a quick cash grab, but they're really going to do that. But I want to know what you guys think. Please leave comments down below. As always, to be continued.